Yo guys, welcome back to the Blue Podcast with me, Tom and Ben. How you doing, mate?
Good, thanks.
And we have Rick from Rick Sports on today. Me and Ben have both featured on his channel in late. Welcome to the channel, mate. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
So,
We've gone a little better, but
so this was being recorded Wednesday night, just after the United versus City semi-final game. And as you can see, Rick is a United fan, and we know Ben's a City fan. And unfortunately for Rick, but more fortunately for Ben, which is, I guess, fortunately for our channel, 2-0 win for City. We'll start with Rick. I think we'll just go straight into this. Might as well, whilst it's fresh in the brain. Thoughts on the game?
well, I think I was saying before the game that I think we're really susceptible to conceding from set pieces, and I think obviously City got their 2 goals from set pieces, which is disappointing because it's been a weakness all season, and it's annoying when you see the same thing happening game after game. But I think credit to City. City played well. I think that a few of our attacking players had quite poor games, so you can't really. At least there's no contentious decisions. You can't really complain. It's just we lost to a team that played better. There's not really much I can say about it.
You happy, Ben?
I am honestly very happy. Yeah, I think it was nice because it felt like
Building into it.
Yeah, definitely. It felt like we were building to a performance like that. Obviously, we played well against Chelsea.
We'll get into that as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. It felt like it was. It was what we've been progressing to, and what we've been working towards a little bit.
Yeah, so. I remember on your channel, Rick. I think when I was on the live stream, you said we were wondering which team would have it go in a good run of form during this like kind of January period, and I'm pretty sure I said Man City because me and Ben have spoken up quite a bit about it on the podcast that you've been building, and I mean Ruben Diaz today just looked incredible for 23, to be honest, and yeah. I have to say I was supporting City. Obviously, I got to back my boy Ben, but also I also really don't want Solskjaer to make it to a final because then Lampard actually has that over Solskjaer. So
take what you can get from you, I suppose.
At the moment, yes. I'm sure we'll get into how bad City have been, but before that, Happy New Year to everyone. Sorry, Chelsea have been. Sorry.
Yeah, Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed the New Year's special with my sister and my best mate. It was good fun. This is now the first podcast in 2 that we haven't actually had a drink in it, so it's it's a different one. That's why I felt rusty. I said I felt rusty beforehand. Make sure you do check out the merch. I've finally got a different hoodie this time. Got the one with the blue band and the writing in the middle. It's very nice, very comfortable. It's I have to say it's actually probably one of my favorite in terms of wearing. We upload these Thursday 4 p.m. But new year means improved and more content. This Sunday, we have got a brand new show coming to the channel. 2 of our mates you may have seen before, which is a little hint, are going to be featuring as, I guess, hosts. How would you describe it? Just kind of like being added to the channel, I guess.
Yeah, like they're going to be, like you say, hosts with us on this new series, basically.
Yeah. So it's going to be Premier League, I guess, based. Without guests. We're going to keep the guests on the Thursdays, though, so don't worry. You keep on getting people like Rick coming on every Thursday, showing their lovely faces and saying what they want. But yeah, just saying, make sure you check that out on Sunday. It'll be out at some point on Sunday. I haven't decided when, but be good. And also check out our Twitter at the Blue Podcast 1, Instagram at the Blue Podcast 1. So, should we talk about how bad Chelsea have been?
Yeah, I think that. It could be a good start.
ease into it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure it will ease into it. Where to start, shall we? I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not Lampard out. I know a lot of people who've kind of jumped on the Lampard bandwagon of, it's just been luck he's got to this point. He's not good enough. But he's made it to a final, which is better than Solskjaer. Yes, he's not doing very well now. Went 18 games unbeaten. That's not luck. I'm just throwing those things out there before we get into the City game.
Yeah.
where we started well for 15 minutes, and
I think what's happened is, so do you remember me saying it's that season? You've made some quality signings, but you may have signed too many at once. What's happened is those players, because some of those players that were injured and stuff, and they've come back now, haven't they? So now they're starting to play and get integrated into the squad. So now, the gelling time is happening now, which is why you've had a dip in form, which is difficult because obviously you want these players to play, but it's going to inevitably mean that you're going to have a slight dip in form because the players are going to have to get used to each other because because they've only just started to play together basically. Because like you were saying, Ziyech has been injured, he came back.
Silva can't play every game.
So
It's
someone else.
just like Reece James is injured right now.
Yeah. So.
Chilwell got injured in the West Ham game.
Pulisic was injured for a bit as well, wasn't he?
He's back properly now. Seems fully fit. So yeah, it's been very disjointed.
Yeah.
You have signed a lot of players though as well, and obviously they're quality players. But I think that even say from a Manchester United perspective, that most players you get from different leagues, it takes a little while to adjust to the Premier League. And the Premier League is not an easy league. You don't get so many easy games that you might for, say, in other leagues. And we've seen over the years, I think Bruno Fernandes, for me, is one of the kind of outliers in that he adjusted very quickly. But a lot of players we signed in the past, like Vidic, for example, one of the best defenders in the league, but it took him like at least a few months, maybe. He got signed in January alongside Everett, and it took them maybe until the summer, and the next season we saw the best from them. So it's going to take time. Like if you sign 7 players and expect them to put them all in the first team, I was surprised by how well Chelsea started, actually, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, everyone was saying like this would be our transition season as long as we get top 4, which I think we could still do.
Okay, doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying it's just because we got slapped with this title contenders very quickly in the season for a period of time. Yeah,
it's the amount of money, and it's like they said, it's a transition, but you're doing it quite quickly because that amount of players normally it'd be over a couple of windows.
Yeah, for sure. And but to be fair, at the same time, I said this to my dad, Gundogan. He took like a season and a half to get properly in the flow of things for Man City. Would you agree with it?
I would say a few players like that. So Gundogan, Mahrez. He was his first season he was all right, but his second season he really kicked on.
Yeah, so I'm saying like with Werner and Havertz, it's probably going to take them a season to really adjust to this Premier League. Yeah. So I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's sort of concerning is because you have bought them all at the same time. So with Gundogan and Mahrez was our only signing that summer.
Yeah.
So because you've got so many players at the same time, they're all having to adjust at the same time.
Yeah, true.
They're not all going to adjust at the same rates, which is why you got to be patient, basically, because they will adjust. It's just
because you find expensive players, they have to be in the team, so you can't sign players that cost 70-80 million and not play them. So they've kind of got to put a few of these players in the team, which I think maybe it's difficult to integrate that many at once.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, and that's what I was saying. Like, you haven't, because some of those players had injuries at the start of the season. You're now having to integrate them, which is why it's proven difficult. But then there's also, I mean, I guess you could fault Lampard a little bit for this, but I don't know if he's being told he has to play these players.
That's what I think, though. Like, I think he might be almost. He may not be told to play them, but he might almost feel pressured that he has to play Werner.
So that's the other thing. He's playing players out of position, which I don't know whether it's his fault for being like, well, obviously he's going to have that pressure anyway, of being thinking I've got to play these players, so is it his fault that he's being like, right, I'm going to have to just try and fit him into this 4-3-3, or is he being told you need to play them? Doesn't matter if they don't fit your system. Like,
I get what you're saying.
So is it his fault, or is it something from above? But if you're saying that, because he's the manager, he should be looking at a different system to work with these players, because it's quite obvious. He could take a leaf out of United's book and play a diamond and play 2 up top. that'd probably work.
I think it would work. Theo, who we had on the New Year's special, he's been saying he wants to play 2 up top a lot to me. And I think you mentioned it in the podcast. He wants to play almost like Giroud and Werner as a front two.
Yeah. So you can play, and then you got Abraham to come in if you for like rotation and stuff.
Bit of pace as well if Giroud's not working.
That diamond in midfield, you'll have Ziyech, and you'll have Pulisic at the top, Ziyech, Havertz, and then Kante sitting. Seems all right to me.
I just think it sounds good on paper, doesn't it? It makes sense of what's going wrong recently. That they've got the players there.
So I think it's a bit. There's a bit of that as well that being played out position, and they don't really fit that 4-3-3. So I think, in my opinion, anyway, I think he should be looking at like either adjusting the plays he starts or adjusting the system a little bit.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Well, I think for Chelsea anyway, it's good we've got this kind of almost like an easy period where we got Morecambe on Sunday and then Fulham on Friday.
I was going to say, I don't think any other season you can say easy period, but this season, any team cannot say they've got an easy period.
Yeah, but I'd say this week we have now is actually probably the one time I could say an easy period.
Yeah. But I mean in like in terms of Premier League. So
Premier League, yeah.
Us after who do we have? I think actually us now after the FA Cup. We've got a pretty nice run of games, but any other season. But this season, I can't guarantee that we're going to pick up maximum points or only drop a couple of points in those games.
Yeah,
that's how all over the shop this season is with COVID and stuff.
I thought Liverpool would have maximum points over Christmas because they had pretty easy games, didn't they? They had they had like West Brom, they had Newcastle and Southampton. I thought Southampton, maybe that could be, but to get just a couple of points from those was like really. I think everyone agrees on this podcast that was great to see.
Yeah.
That was so good. I can't believe. Yeah, actually, let's talk about that. Liverpool losing 1-0 to Southampton. I'd say Ings was more of a shot than Saka's was against us. You guys agree?
Yeah, Saka's one was not a shot. But it was obviously a nice goal, but to say that was a shot is
It was quite bizarre to see that if you watch the game, to see how little creativity there was in the Liverpool team. That they almost created. There was
one shot on target.
I think so, and that was like a back pass that was. Like,
they're playing Thiago as well, who's brought in for that purpose. But I think it's more other areas that they're struggling with in terms of that's not giving them the platform because they don't have Van Dijk, and then Jota's obviously a miss now.
Yeah.
So, and so it's difficult, and they didn't have that last season. They didn't have injuries.
Well, they had like pretty much a perfect record, didn't they? And that sort of thing can really help. That they had no issues. I think when Manchester United after the break, because we had Pogba back and we had Rashford back, and obviously we signed Fernandes, we looked like a completely different team. So the break really helped us.
Yeah,
because we didn't have the biggest squad. So if you take 2 good players out, suddenly you were really struggling. Our bench was just players you didn't even want to bring on. I can see why we didn't make many subs till at the end because there was no one that would improve the team.
No, yeah, fair enough. But,
what would you say about? Like I'm saying about, I think maybe you should look at adjusting your starting lineup or adjusting the system. Do you think that's thing, or do you think that the 4-3-3 is fine? It's just they need to get gel together a bit.
What, me?
Yeah. Because I think
change of formation. I've said this a couple of times to my mates because I've got a surprising amount of Chelsea mates, which is obviously we just attract each other. I think.
Or he needs to play Werner as that central striker.
He wasn't any good against you though. And to be fair though, the one thing I can't fault Lampard with this is right. He played the team that everyone wanted us to play at the start of the season, bar maybe hoping Havertz would play over Kovacic, but Havertz hasn't played very well, so fair enough, he'd play Kovacic there. That was the team. That was the dream team every Chelsea fan had at the start of the season. Werner up top, Pulisic and Ziyech either side of him, Mount, Kante, Kovacic or Havertz, and then Chilwell, Silva, Zuma, and maybe I guess probably you'd rather have Reece James there instead of Dave, and he clearly looked very slow against you, and then Mendy in goal. So I can't really fault him for that because he played the team that everyone wanted him to play, and it didn't work.
Do you think the case is with Bernard that he needs like consistent games in that position?
Yeah, and he also, when he played for Leipzig, he played better off of another striker, Poulsen.
Right.
So if you play two up top, which I'm saying we should play 4-4-2 with Kante and Mount, or Kante and Kovacic, or Kante and Jorginho even, playing two in midfield, two up top, we could just be so threatening. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think. I think it's an interesting one.
Also, I don't watch a lot of Bundesliga, but people I know that do say that a lot of teams play a higher line, so it gives Werner no opportunity to use his pace to run in behind teams. And obviously in the Premier League, you get a lot more bus parking. Say against a team like Chelsea that they've got creative players. Teams lower down aren't going to give you any space. And in the past, that's what we've really struggled with, trying to break down a team. So if pace is one of your strong assets, like for example, like say James, Rashford, Marshall, you have players that if there's no space for them to run into, it takes away one of the attributes they've got. So that's possible. There's an adaptation process because of the Premier League is a bit tough as well.
Yeah. What was the striker that he did play? Because he play with, because I remember watching a video about that, and he played with another striker who was more of a target man.
Poulsen.
I.e., was it?
I think it was Poulsen. Yeah.
Poulsen, yeah. I.e. Giroud.
Yeah. So, or either Giroud or Abraham.
Yeah. So you would think that would work.
He just hasn't tried it yet. I think this week will be like a kind of a period of time for us to think. He'll probably play a couple of kids against Morecambe. Might even try out a different formation. Yeah, that's probably the game to try out a different formation. To be honest,
he might try out like a diamond with two up top or 4-4-2 maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's these next two games are probably the two games to try something, because we've then got Leicester on Tuesday. The game after Fulham, not the week after Fulham, the game after Fulham.
It's quite a tough one. You don't really want to lose that because, like I said, I know you want to get fourth, but there's quite a lot of teams that are possibly pulling away a bit, because you kind of expect, I don't know how long United can keep this quite good run up, but you've got to say Man City are up there as probably the favourites, Liverpool as well. And there's not many.
United, let's be honest, let's not put it in the league. United are one of the favourites to win the league. With Liverpool's bad form lately.
Liverpool, City,
yeah. I'd say Liverpool, United, City are the three that are probably going to try.
Yeah, I'd say that. I think last season Liverpool, Man City were way ahead. I think we possibly, on form recently, we joined them. If we can sustain it, then I think it could be a lot more exciting. At least you might have three teams in it rather. Last season, for us, it's disappointing not to be to get to Christmas and be completely out of the title race is a bit strange for a Man United fan of the last sort of 10 years, but that was kind of the stage last season. I think I'd looked earlier and we finished about 33 points behind Liverpool over the season. That's ridiculous. So to be level on points with them this season at this stage, I'd have taken within a few points, or 5 points would have been a pretty big improvement.
That is, that's very true. I think Ben's mentioned it before, that you kind of can't really write off United now in the league. I mean, they've obviously not done very well in cups like the Champions League. Now the League Cup, they're out again, but they haven't conceded a goal in the League Cup till they played City, had they?
Yeah.
No, I think in the Champions League, I know we got knocked out, but I think because of the way it's seeded in terms of we hadn't been in the Champions League regularly, I think we got quite a tough group with the finalists and the semi-finalists, and bizarrely we messed it up against the team we should have beaten. But it was kind of like inconsistencies, and I think we've definitely sorted that out a bit recently. I think today, fair play, City are probably the best team in the league, I think, in terms of the players they got.
Well, probably, I think with how they're playing as well. I mean, when they played against us, that 30-minute period after 15 minutes into the game, you played probably some of the best football in the league scene this season. So, yeah.
I think with United, like you say, domestically they've had a good season. And I think I said this on the stream yesterday. You can argue about how they were playing earlier on the season, but in terms of results, United have had a good domestic season. And then in terms of Champions League, obviously it's disappointing to go out of that. But if you look at that group at the start, you'd be thinking, oh, Europa League, that's all right. And also, the reason why it was such a disappointment is because of the way they started, because they'd be...
I think it's like they put in 2 exceptional performances, which, I think the game against PSG was fantastic. And I think the problem Manchester United have had maybe is that 2 defenders I want to see play, like Eric Bailly and Tuanzebe, is their injury record. And I thought Bailly might get a game tonight, but the problem is because they're probably 2 defenders that should start, but they're always injured. We have to keep having Maguire and Lindelof are probably the first choice pairing because they're the only players available a lot of the time, which are good enough.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard you mention it before about on Rick streams. Do check out Rick streams though; they are good fun. It's funny being I was once on there as one Chelsea fan surrounded by five United fans, which was certainly interesting, I could have to say. But I've heard a lot of United fans on your channel and you yourself say the reason why he plays Maguire and Lindelof so much is purely because of injuries and how consistently not injured they are.
I think it's like Tuanzebe played against PSG and he'd been injured for a whole year, I think, pretty much. And Eric Bailly, I don't think he actually managed to play more than 4 games without getting an injury. So it's but when he did play last game, he was really good. And you think, okay, this is great, but it's I know maybe he needs to get a bit of match fitness. I think he looked good though. So it's obviously a problem for us because you want to play defenders to build sort of an understanding, but the 2 we want to see partnering, either Lindelof or Maguire, just aren't available. So it's a bit frustrating.
I was surprised that he rested Bailly because he's probably been the reason why your defense has been so good recently.
Yeah, no, I think it was a bit of a strange thing.
Yeah, but it was a strange one because, like I say, it's the reason your defense has been so solid.
I think we missed Cavani. Actually, I think he's been the surprise success of our bizarre transfer window. Shall I say that I think we really missed him, like him holding the ball up because he's just. I think it might have been interesting to see him play against City because I think he offers something completely different.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it would have almost tested Diaz even more, and it probably also would have. The City keeper was tested a bit. He did make a good save in the first half against Bruno, but yeah, it might have given more the centre backs more to think about because it was more with when you play Bruno in that kind of deeper centre forward role, and you've got Martial and Rashford either side. It's more the fullbacks who have to focus on Martial and Rashford, and then it allows Stones and Diaz just to kind of cover them, which kind of I feel like almost benefited how City defends.
I think another player to mention is Aguero. He probably has a similar effect as Cavani has on United.
Yeah.
In terms of they'll give him that somewhat extra up front, but obviously both. I mean, Aguero is available but not fully fit, and Cavani was banned. But that would have made it interesting, definitely.
Were you surprised, Ben, today when Guardiola didn't name the same team that beat us 3-1?
No.
Really? Oh, yes, it was Guardiola, isn't it?
He never plays the same 11. I thought he might bring in Mahrez and Fernandinho. I think we mentioned it on the stream last night. But he played the same back 4, which was good. But yeah, I think in general it's kind of expected that he would tweak it slightly because he never plays the same squad twice, and I think he's thinking I'm keeping the opposition on the toes slightly, like just trying to,
I think it can sometimes be detrimental him doing that though.
Yeah, but I mean, when it's only 1 or 2 changes, I think it was only Mahrez and Fernandinho came in.
Yeah,
and it's not too bad. But it's when he's like tinkering with like 4, 5, 6 players, then it's like,
Fair enough. Do you think Rick, United have found their formation though?
What? You think that what?
Do you think United have found their formation?
I think so. I think that we've been probably too defensive maybe recently against some of the top teams. And I think that Man City take Manchester United a bit more seriously recently in terms of how they. But I think City, like against Chelsea and against Manchester United, they just played very well, and I think that's probably our best formation in the big games, which I think, to be honest, Fred and McTominay aren't players you really want to be in your best starting 11, and I think Martial had quite a poor game. But I think apart from that, Cavani would probably be a starter. I think it would give us a bit more balance up front. But I think Manchester United is still a work in progress like Chelsea. I think we're just doing it over more windows because we had a few more players to move on, shall we say, to get out of the way. And then we're not quite recruiting players as quickly as we'd like. I mean, fair play to Chelsea. They did their transfer business so efficiently. And ours was like last minute where people, what on earth is going on? So,
I mean, at the moment, it's kind of it's working to your benefit that you've not got as many players to gel in terms of the league, isn't it? But obviously, long term, it might, because you've obviously got Cavani, who's 32. It might be a bit more of a question, but it's obviously working at the moment. I was just going to ask you, Tom, what you're saying you're Lampard in.
Yeah.
What do you think about, because people were talking about
PSG manager, right?
Tuchel and Allegri. Yeah. What do you think about those two?
Tuchel has won one trophy of value in his career. I'm not counting any French trophies with PSG. Just say it. I'm not. I can't.
Got to the Champions League final with them.
Yeah, with Mbappe, Neymar, Silva.
Yeah, if he comes into your team,
I'm not saying that he.
Yeah, all these summer signings.
I'm not saying he wouldn't help. I'm just saying I want Lampard to have more time. Personally,
yeah, I think they'll give him to the end of the season at least.
I like it. I don't know. It's just tough. Obviously, it's tough.
If he doesn't get top 4, then I don't think.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I think if he doesn't get top 4, he's gone. But I think that's a goal. That's a realistic goal this season. I was about to say that I've always thought that this season really wasn't going to be much in terms of for Chelsea. Like it was going to be. Hopefully, we should get top 4, maybe challenge for a couple of trophies. But really, this wasn't going to be the season to go for anything. I was always looking for next season, really. I know it's not the best mentality, but if you want Chelsea to win a trophy, you've got to look for next season. And even at the start of the season, I was looking to next season. Obviously, I was excited for all these new players and all of our young players stepping up. Like Reece James' season stepped up hugely before he got injured, who I think actually has been part of us losing, has actually been Reece James being injured. Because we started losing when he first got his knock on his knee, and then he wasn't available for one of the games, or was like rushed, and then he could have had an operation. Like I think Reece James has been integral to how we play this season. Yeah. And then since he's gone, I mean, you've seen.
What do you think about the possibility of Allegri? Because he's sort of a tried and tested, sort of in terms of the Chelsea model, because he's Italian. Yeah. Plays Italian style, Conte, Ancelotti.
I don't want to play defensive football, though. I don't know.
He doesn't play defensive football. It's functional. Yeah. So it plays their team strengths.
I think a lot of Chelsea fans are done with functional football, though. Like, obviously, I think a Chelsea fan would rather
Would you be done with it if it gave you a title?
I don't know. That's the question. That's the question, Ben. That's the question, Ben. You know, that's the tough question. I'm gonna say, what was it? Sean on your stream, Rick, often says.
He was a massive fan of Pochettino, and I got to say that Spurs were playing well, but when he left, Spurs were pretty much shambolic. They were 14th. They were playing terrible. So I don't think it was necessarily a long. And I was looking earlier, and I think Espanyol, he did quite well for a season, but when he left them, they were bottom of the league. So I don't think, and someone joined my stream a week ago and said that he basically insisted at Spurs of getting rid of the director of football and having 100% say over the transfers. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but
What Mourinho wants 100% say over transfers.
Park wanted 100% control.
Oh.
And when he did that, the players he brought in made the team worse. When he left them, they weren't doing well. They were lower half of the league. So for me, I was looking at it in terms of like, you're looking at Chelsea for building for next season. I was looking at Manchester United and saying, can we improve on last season? And my argument's always been that, okay, we had a terrible start, but it got to Christmas. And last season, we were about 15 points off top four when everything started shutting down in February. This season, we're level with Liverpool. The improvements that obviously there to see. It's a bit inconsistent, but everyone's been inconsistent. But we're playing better football in terms of like Ben was saying, that we've played ourselves into contention for being considered challengers because of the quite impressive comeback victories, like 2 goals down against Southampton, who are a good team. Like Liverpool couldn't score against them. Comes back against West Ham. Against your two teams, quite disappointing, like 0-0 draws. But
yeah,
again, Man City are a good team. The fact we didn't lose is also positive then.
Yeah, no, definitely. But in terms of Allegri, I understand your point of if it's winning us a trophy, would you bring him in? But I think personally, Lampard can still win us a trophy. So that's my opinion.
If you backed him to buy that many players, then you got to give him some time.
Yeah, you can't. We've said before, you can't expect it to work instantly.
The Chelsea model dictates that if he doesn't get top four,
we're breaking the mold now, Ben. We're breaking the mold.
I was going to say that there's definitely I can't remember who was caretaker manager when you won the double, and he basically left. He didn't stay on.
Yeah.
No, not Di Matteo, because he won the Champions League, didn't he? There was it?
He was caretaker manager when he won the Champions League.
But someone was caretaker manager and won the double. It's like Chelsea don't really tend to give you a lot of time. But I'm also talking from like Manchester United have gone through Mourinho that, okay, he got us a couple of trophies, but he annoys everybody and makes everyone want to leave the club and no one wants to join after a bit. And then we had, say, Moyes, who signed some pretty bad players. And then we had like Van Gaal, who then made us play incredibly boring football and again signed players not good enough. So it's taken Solskjaer like a couple of windows just to move on players we don't need. And now we're actually seeing the benefit of that. Our squad's quite thin, but we're seeing the benefit. So it seems stupid to get rid of him for, like, Poch hasn't won anything. I know people say he'll play better, but Manchester United are actually playing quite good football.
Yeah.
It's been entertaining, scoring a lot.
I agree. So that's why I'm saying Lampard in. Anyway, if United fans are Solskjaer in, I'm Lampard.
If Arteta can keep his job, then Lampard's got a good chance to keep it.
Oh yeah, if Arteta's
I just think if it gets quite bad, the hierarchy will revert to type.
Yeah,
like people don't change, like
they won't. They'll never completely change, will they?
Yeah, they'll change as much as it's working, and then when it stops working,
yeah, it's like an elastic band. If they'll get to a certain point, and if it doesn't work at that certain point, they'll just let go.
Yeah.
There's no sentiment, is there? They'll give them a bit of time, like you said, but
yeah, it's of all players to be given the time, it would be Lampard, because you will have to handle that quite delicately. If you're getting rid of Lampard, in terms of for Chelsea fans, you will get some backlash. Even if it's
how you finish. Do you think it definitely matters top four? Because if you finish the season on a high, okay, because I would say that if you do mess up a couple of games, that Tottenham and Leicester could compete for.
I'd say fifth if we finish the season really strong. If we finish the season like as you finished last season, really strong, and play really good football for at least 2 months before the end of the season, then we may stay if we get fifth. Because
I was saying, if you had a bad month now, I'm not saying you're going to, but if you had a bad month and you kind of drop a bit like Arsenal did, but then you rebound back and finish strong, then maybe you'd get a bit of next season. But if next season you don't kick on again, maybe that's going to be quite cutthroat quite early on.
I agree. Should we? Sorry, do you want to say, Ben?
I was just going to say, I was talking to some United friends just before the podcast, and he was complaining about the free kick that led to the Stones goal. saying that Sterling wasn't fouled. Would you agree with that? I've seen the highlights and it's
a soft free kick, but it's
I
a
haven't
free
seen
kick.
the replay. When it was live, I was like, I thought it was a bit soft because I'm biased.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a stone wall. I would say actually to talk about the other side, I think Marshall was diving too much, and I think for a Man United fan, that at least on a couple of occasions, why even trying to dive? You could at least have a shot, or I don't want to see that sort of thing from like any side. I thought, for me, I think Sterling was quite well handled by our defence for most of the game, and I don't know. It's one of those things that it's a bit soft, and it's we talk about it now because it's the goal.
Yeah, you like seeing some give and seeing some not sort of thing.
Yeah. It's dependent on the ref. Yeah. But shall we get into your history, Rick, of Manchester United? Shall we?
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Sound good to you?
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds something I can talk about.
All right. What was your first game either on TV or live at the stadium that you can remember?
Well, I can remember watching live. That's quite a tough question. I'd say live because I'm from Mid Wales. I hadn't gone to see them live until, say, recently-ish, but that was probably, I'm trying to think when it was, maybe about 15 years ago. I saw them live.
Do you remember the game?
And the game was against Crystal Palace, and we won 5-1. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. And I think I'm trying to think who scored. I think Scholes might have got a couple. I think Solskjaer scored. It was one of those games where I think we took the lead. They may have equalised with like their only attack, and then we just tore them to pieces. And I was thinking, okay, but it was like that was probably 2004 or 5 when we were. It might have been when your team started dominating the league, actually, about 05, 06 time. So just before then, maybe.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. But have you got a question?
On TV, actually. One I can remember on TV, and I don't know when it was. I think it was in possibly the 80s, and it stands out because maybe TV was and sports weren't quite as broadcast then as much as they are now. So you'd have like maybe just 1 or 2 games on per week. But it's against Liverpool because obviously Liverpool are the team you want to watch play, and Liverpool had an amazing team, but we always had quite good wins against them because obviously it's like a massive game for us. And I think that the game stood out because Barnes scored. And you think, okay, John Barnes has scored, like, we're not going to win. And we had this like amazing period. So in the next 7 minutes, we scored 3 goals and basically took them 3-1. And I think Brian McClare got an overhead kick. And I was like, wow, it's like, what? And it just stood out because obviously Liverpool dominated the league for like all of the 80s. So to beat them, so they're kind of like first for both of those that I can remember.
Very nice.
So what would you say your favourite ever game is?
Oh, I think it's difficult to beat the final in '99 for me. In terms of like one-off game that I can remember, because I think it's the Manchester United. I don't know if you remember when the Champions League started, they had different rules, so you couldn't play a certain number of non-EU players. So because we had Schmeichel and we had Cantona, I think it might have had Blomqvist, we had to play some games where we couldn't play necessarily our full strength team.
Right.
But I think we played against Barcelona and got thrashed. But because for me, the Munich game stands out because I went through loads of tournaments thinking we've got a chance and we'd like meet a ridiculously good Juventus side when Zidane was there, or you play a Barcelona side that had Hagi and Stoichkov. And every year you kind of meet up against some team that just is like too difficult to beat. So I kind of thought we'd never actually win it. And then I spent most of the match thinking, oh God, we got to the final and we've blown it. So the fact that we won it in quite dramatic style. But alongside that, I'd probably put the Arsenal FA Cup semi-final replay with like that Giggs goal in terms of like.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it's like they're tense watching, but they're more memorable because of thinking you're going to lose. Like they got a penalty with like a couple of minutes to go, and I think it's like Bergkamp, Schmeichel saved it, and you think,
oh okay. Yeah.
So for me, it's
this
like
is it.
So it's like, I think the games that are most memorable are the tense ones that you kind of claw victory from quite a bad position. Because the ones where you thrash teams 4 or 5-0 are like are nice, but they're not so memorable because they're not kind of after about half an hour or an hour you think, okay, the game's done.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think both Ben and I completely can agree. Well, if you thought those last two questions were hard, here's an even harder one. In your opinion, who are your top 5 favorite or best players
Okay.
of all time?
I would say that as a Manchester United fan,
In terms of Manchester United players, sorry.
just Manchester United players.
Yeah.
I would say what I was going to say is that on my stream I usually wear a jersey, and I've only ever bought home kits, and there's only one name I've ever had on the back of a kit, and that's Cantona. And for me, he was like possibly my favorite player because he made the team amazing. That was a good team, but we made us unbeatable for a few years. And it's like a lot of the games where, so like we had quite a boring game against Chelsea 0-0. We had quite a boring game against City. They were quite boring games, obviously back then, but Cantona would do one thing, like the FA Cup final in '96. Nothing happened until Cantona got that volley. And you think, okay. And there was a 1-0 game against Arsenal where he hit this ridiculous shot that went in off the crossbar, or a game against Spurs where he just went on a mazy run. And he just did these things that won games that, stat-wise, you probably pick out Ronaldo and say how many goals he scored. And I'd say he's in my top 5 as well. Because the second game I saw live was against Wigan. And the first half, pretty much Wigan came to defend and did that. I think when they got the ball, they just passed it sideways because they didn't want to attack. And I was like, what's going on? And in the second half, Ronaldo came on, and all Ronaldo did was run directly at the goal, and the defenders couldn't do anything. And from 45 minutes, like when he came on, to 60 minutes, we scored 3 goals. I think Ronaldo got fouled about 5 times. It was unplayable. And I was just thinking, this is like ridiculous. He's so fast. And so they're definitely 2 of the players. Probably Scholes is like another one. Because for me, the best passer I've ever seen. You say like De Bruyne. I think it's like Scholes did that for like 15 years at the top.
Yeah, I mean, in the Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard debate, and well, Tom won't like this, but I would choose Scholes.
Yeah, you chose Scholes. I chose Lampard. Kieran chose
I think it's like
Gerrard.
I've watched say United play live, and even when Scholes was probably past his best, say like mid to late 30s, he controlled everything in terms of like the ball went to him. If you look at Fred, McTominay, Bruno Fernandes now, they're a fraction of the ability of Scholes. Scholes put it exactly where it needed to be. I don't think I ever saw him misplace a pass like more than once or twice in a game. It was ridiculous. It's almost got taken for granted because he turned up every game, and you just didn't notice it. It was just the passing was like so spot on, and there's some of the finishes as well were great. Like that goal against Barcelona, the final against your guys. So I think those are probably the top 3.
It's kind of that's just what he was supposed to do, so it wasn't really.
It's kind of difficult picking. Like I'm probably picking mainly outfield players, or not sort of non-defenders as the.
Do you want to keep it as 3 then to make it easier?
I can say actually I would probably put probably Giggs, because watching
Giggs, isn't it?
watching Marshall tonight and playing on the left, and say Giggs, like it's talk about Scholes putting 70-yard balls in, and Giggs, I watched him play against Sheffield Wednesday, because I went to university in Sheffield, so I went to watch him play Wednesday, and Giggs was like running full pace. There was a cross from like someone punted it from defence, and Giggs just didn't break his stride, and his first touch was always spot on, and I definitely put him, and then probably Roy Keane, like the best leader I've ever seen in terms of. If we could get 2 of those players back in this team, I think we'd be contenders, because I think they're all maybe probably mainly I'm picking players from that sort of era, because I think the players we've got now aren't quite as good as the ones we had then.
Yeah, I think
you can. There's a lot of shout outs for the 2008 team where you have Ronaldo. I put Ronaldo in there Ronaldo's in there, but Rooney's quite a shout. But I think at the peak for players I enjoyed watching, I think Rooney is probably definitely in the top 10 for me. But I think Giggs and Scholes and Keane were probably.
I think you are definitely you definitely have a chance now. But like you say, if you had one or two of those players, you'd be clear favourites.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could put Roy Keane in there, have that leadership.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That
Well, that's what Chelsea need right now as well, to be honest. Well, that was actually something me and my dad picked up today. So Ruben Diaz is 23 years old, right? But he is the boss of that back four, or even the entire defense. He is the one bossing everyone, telling where everyone needs to be. I found that very interesting. The fact he's 23, he's just completely in control.
I think if you're a natural leader, you're a natural leader, aren't you? You can see that in some players that you kind of sometimes with Manchester United's team now, you look at the older players, but it's not necessarily, its age is irrelevant. You could see like Rooney when he was a teenager, he was like bossing players around because he just knows what he wants them to do. Like Diaz knows what he wants the other defenders to do. He's got the kind of the reading of the game, which is annoying because he's quite young and they're going to have for a long time.
It's exactly what we needed, that leadership. Because obviously a lot's been talked about that I was losing the players, but losing company, you lose that leadership.
It is hard to replace, isn't it? I think you've got close now, but
like Eden Hazard, who we just clearly haven't replaced yet.
That leadership that we lost with company was ridiculous. How much we lost? How much of that sort of in the dressing room we lost. So yeah, it's exactly what we needed, something like that.
It's hard to replace, isn't it? Because you can buy players on ability, but I say for us, we don't have so many. I think Bruno Fernandes, you can see him as a leader because you can see the way he reacts to how things go wrong in terms of like he's trying to demand improvements from players around him, or for other players less so. I think that definitely Manchester United in the past, I think it's like quite interesting to see how many ex-Manchester United players from the 90s then became actual managers. That they do maybe not had the best managerial careers, a lot of them, but so many ended up being managers because they were quite natural leaders, like Bruce, and you've got Brian Robson and Roy Keane did it for a bit. And obviously Bruce is still going. He's not the most popular manager, but there's definitely leadership ability in some of these players.
I mean, even Rooney.
And Rooney as well.
Had a try.
He's still player manager at Derby, isn't he?
He's proper manager now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I thought he was player manager though.
He was player manager at first, but now I think he's proper manager.
Oh, very interesting.
So Phil Neville actually did okay with the women's team. I think
got them to the final of the World Cup, didn't he? It was the semis, but then did lose to America, who won the whole thing. So
that's like almost like.
But I mean, he's linked with because he's stepping down, isn't he? He's linked with Inter Miami, Beckham's team, isn't he? So that'll be interesting. So because of that, he's going to have to. If he does take that job, he won't be able to manage the Team GB at the Olympics, the women's team.
So actually, Beckham's the only player out of our 99 top midfield that didn't make my fight. I think Beckham was like great. I love watching Beckham play, and if you look at his highlights, a lot of his goals are really great finishes. It can pick. Unfortunately, Ronaldo was just too good to leave out. He's just
you can only have 5, can't you?
He's just a machine. I think you just put him in any team, and it's just unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
So we've spoken a bit about the sort of your favourite matches in your first game. What's your just your earliest memory of United? It doesn't have to be a match or anything like that. Could just be sort of you seeing an advert, something like that.
I think it was like things like I think my dad supported United, my uncle supported Everton, and they definitely played in the final. Was it like 84 or 85? I think it was like 84 that United won. So it's probably quite early on, but I think it's because so the first World Cup I watched was 86, which you kind of guessed my age based on that. And the main players then for England, obviously you got Gary Lineker because he was scored the most goals, but like Brian Robson, so maybe it's kind of him. So have in terms of like supporting the team, that say Brian Robson, Mark Hughes, those sort of players are my favourite players. But as a weird early memory, I remember Alex Ferguson becoming manager, and obviously he did well at Aberdeen beforehand. And what was interesting then was like the speculation. I think someone tried to buy Manchester United, and the offer was about 10 million, which seems like absolutely ridiculous then in like the 80s. But it's like kind of obviously you can see how finances have changed. But I think it was he did a bit like Solskjaer did for me, in that there were lots of really good players, but he moved them on for different reasons, like Norman Whiteside and Paul McGrath, because they like drinking maybe more than they like training. And so it took a while, but you can kind of see that if you give a manager time, you've got to at least let them kind of build what their vision is. So I think that's kind of, I just remember watching, my earliest memory is basically just hoping that someone beats Liverpool, because we weren't doing that at the time for the league. So I was kind of like really happy when, I can't remember what year it was. It might have been like 89 or something, when Arsenal won the league by beating Liverpool 2-0 on the last day of the season. I remember like kind of being really happy that happened, because it meant Liverpool didn't win for like at least 1 year.
Fair enough. What was your favourite goal that you can remember of Manchester United? Like, was it an important goal that you loved? Was it just a fantastic goal? Like, what?
Yeah, so there's like lots to pick from. I talked about a couple earlier about, you know, the like the Giggs goal against Arsenal is probably like one of the best I've watched. I think the Cantona got this chip against Sunderland where he does the celebration where he raises his arms.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of iconic. That was like a crazy goal. For me, a goal people might not have seen much is say in 1991, because we won the Cup Winners' Cup, and one of the goals in the final, Mark Hughes kind of takes the ball. The keeper runs out, Mark Hughes kicks it past him, and it like a really wide angle and runs off. And the commentator is saying, "Oh, Hughes maybe has a chance. Oh, not really now." And then Mark Hughes just absolutely hammers it in from this ridiculous angle, and the camera view is like through the goal, so you just kind of see the ball flying towards the goal, and defenders kind of like diving as their legs just missing it. And for me, that's like one of the best goals I've seen, because it's like quite a dramatic finish.
Right.
Oh, that sounds pretty interesting.
I think check it out, because for me, obviously I'm biased, but for me the commentary makes it where they just kind of.
No, I think I've seen that goal, because I can picture where the camera was. I may have seen it before, I think.
And also because it was a ridiculously good Barcelona team, but there was a bit of because Mark Hughes played for Barcelona very briefly, it didn't work out. So there's kind of like a bit like one of their players got sent off for trying to hack him down at one point, which is because he was clean through going for a hat trick. So it's kind of it was nice to see him get that goal against them, because obviously it was a great goal as well.
Yeah. So obviously we're talking a bit about this, but how would you sort of judge your start to the season?
I would say if you're talking about the very, very start, it was like utter shambles with like the Crystal Palace game, the Brighton game we somehow won, which we shouldn't have won. But I think it's like you're talking about a weird season where we had very little preparation time after I think going away. We had the long run in Europe, and then it didn't work out. And then we didn't have any preparation. We had no pre-season. I think we played one game against Villa. But I'd say after that, this stage of the season, I think it's going about as well as I would have expected. My expectation for the season was.
When you do say slightly better, being on same points as Liverpool.
Yeah, no, I think I was hoping for, like you said, I was hoping that maybe next season might be the next season we can challenge if we do a couple of good transfer windows. So I was thinking that because we finished like over 30 points behind, I thought there's no way you're going to close that in 1 year, because they were just. And I thought if we can get at least a lot closer to Man City and Liverpool, and maybe win a cup or something, that would be a good season. But I think at the moment now you've got to say, can we finish like top two? And if we could like finish top two and Liverpool finish third, I think that's a great season.
I think a lot of fans would be quite happy with that from all clubs. Liverpool not winning the league this season would be quite nice for the most. Yeah. And let's be honest, no offense to City, but they're kind of the club where you can win the league. It doesn't matter if you go win the league, as long as Spurs. As long as Spurs are Liverpool,
I'll take it. I don't care.
Ricky, kind of got to agree. Well, I think Spurs for me is I'd much rather City won 5 seasons in a row or whatever. Well, I've been got 5 seasons in a row. One this season and then not next season, but the season after that, and it made sure that Spurs didn't win the league. I would much prefer that.
As a Chelsea fan, just a question for you: which teams do you dislike the most? Because I was talking to Man City.
Do you want me to rank them for you?
You can rank like the top 3, 4, 5 if you want.
Okay. Well, we know number one Spurs. Two, I'd say joint second. Joint second.
Whoa.
Liverpool and United. Then Arsenal. Then I don't really care.
I'd say, yeah, I have like a few, and then it drops off to not caring at all. So I'd say Liverpool by far, by a massive distance.
Yeah.
Then probably, I think then actually.
I really don't like Arsenal though. I'd say joint second is Liverpool, United, Arsenal.
But it's all the same.
Yeah,
I think that for me, Liverpool are way ahead, and then after that, it becomes a mixture of, depends who's like our rivals at the time. It was quite often Arsenal, and still like maybe Arsenal and Leeds, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's
we've had quite a bit of a rivalry the last 15, 20 years, haven't we? 15 years.
Yeah, definitely with like recently it's City, but I think for when I was talking to City fans last night, it's like for them Manchester United have always been the rival. I think it's for us because Liverpool had the dominance when I started supporting Manchester United. It was about beating them. They were the best team, and they're the team you want to beat. And then maybe people that have started supporting football teams like in the 90s or later, Liverpool haven't really won the league. So for City and Manchester United fans, certainly in the last 10 years, maybe there's more rivalry between younger fans, I guess. It depends who's good at the time, doesn't it? Because at one point, Blackburn were a rival and Newcastle were a rival, but now they're kind of like nowhere near.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you my top three, United. That's it. It doesn't like.
I would say like kind of a similar thing that it's Liverpool by a mile. If Liverpool don't win the league, if Spurs win it, if Chelsea win it, I don't really care. It's like Liverpool or nothing. That Leeds, I don't even know. They're obviously disliked, but no, I think. And for Spurs, I've got a friend that's a massive Spurs fan, and I think you beat them about 30 times in a row or something.
Something ridiculous.
That you had this crazy record against Spurs. You don't have to worry about Spurs. You always beat them.
No, our home record against them is really good. I think we've only lost once to them at home in like 20 years or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
When I was doing a Villa preview, and I was talking to someone from a Villa fan channel, and I think we've lost once to Villa in like 44 games or something. It's ridiculous. It's like I was saying that it doesn't matter what you think is going to happen. We just always beat you. We just always do. It's like the last time you beat us was 10 years ago, and I think that
there was a.
I think there might be. Sorry, I think there might be a bit of in terms of Chelsea's rivalries. There's a lot more clubs in your proximity.
Well, Spurs and Arsenal, yeah.
Whereas with City, United, Liverpool, there's only. I mean, obviously, there's loads of clubs in the Northwest, but in terms of top clubs, those are the top clubs in the Northwest. So you're not gonna get like 3-4 rivalries because there's not that as much proximity.
Yeah. What I was going to say about the Spurs thing is, I think Lampard or someone came out in an interview after, I think Chelsea beat Spurs again, or Spurs just won a game against Chelsea, and he said, Chelsea make DVDs when they win the Champions League. Spurs will make a DVD and sing about it when they just beat Chelsea away.
Yeah,
or something along those lines. Anyway, but I mean, we've spoken about the history of United. We've spoken about current affairs, and I guess a little bit of the future. But what do you think the future holds for United in the end of this season, next season?
I think it's tough because I think like a lot of people have said things about, and I think it comes down to like our owners that they quite like making a profit from the team, and I think that you don't see us maybe competing in the transfer market quite how we used to in the past, which I think is frustrating because I don't think the board necessarily match the ambitions of the fans. But I think that it's a shame they don't, because I think as a brand, Manchester United's got such worldwide appeal. If they won more things with investment into the team, I think they'd make a lot more money in terms of sponsorship and everything that. But I do see like a big improvement, and it's kind of difficult to know how far Solskjaer can go. with this team. And I think that I'm looking at the team and thinking a few key players, like we're talking about bringing like a few players back from the 90s, a few key players, like say a defensive midfielder that can do the job that, let's be honest, Fred, McTominay, Matic can't really do anymore. And maybe a more clinical striker, because we're talking about having Cavani as the only out-and-out striker, and a lot of players are probably wingers trying to play as strikers, apart from I think Greenwood maybe in the future would be. So I would think that the future looks good. I don't know whether Manchester United will actually be able to say how much money that Chelsea put in the transfer window this season. I don't see us doing that ever. So I think that we need to kind of do it more from our academy and our youth, in terms of like you got Greenwood, Rashford. These are players that we brought through, which is great to the way that we're running the club, because I think it counteracts the fact that we can't buy a Greenwood. I mean, Greenwood would cost a fortune if he develops how we're expecting him to develop. And even McTominay, he is a decent player. It's just not first team elite quality player. But we can kind of maybe supplement a few key transfers, maybe the players we can't bring through. Because obviously we've brought through quite a few goalkeepers recently as well. But if we can keep doing that and maybe have a certain percentage of our team coming that way, and then buying players, those key positions we don't have, like a defensive midfielder that's good enough.
Yeah.
Maybe a central defender that's a bit better. I think that we could definitely. It wouldn't be crazy to imagine us winning the league in like a year's time or 2 years' time.
Definitely. I think.
Because also, I'd say as a final point, the average age of our team is like incredibly young as well. That there's no players apart from Matic. There's no players that you can see like dropping off. If anything, Greenwood's a teenager. They're all going to get better.
Yeah, that's. I guess that's positive from a United view.
Yeah, but I think, like you say, in terms of like your transfer windows, it's the sort of the way you've done transfers recently. I think it definitely has improved since sort of just after Fergie left and stuff. But it's whether, like you say, your transfer policy now gets you those players that those.
I think the players we're getting are good. We're just not getting enough of them. So I would say that since we've had Solskjaer as manager, someone told me that Solskjaer actually is the only manager since Alex Ferguson to actually be able to veto a player in terms of like whether he signed. So if people think Van der Beek wasn't a signing, he could have vetoed it if he wanted to. I believe that is actually something that he managed to get in his contract when he signed. But I think the improvements are definitely there to see in terms of like the players we brought in.
As much as it pains me as a rival fan to say it, yes, unfortunately, you seem to have improved.
Yeah, but it's so like you say, you transfer in terms of your current transfer policy, it has been working sort of to an extent. So obviously Bruno Fernandes has worked, Cavani's worked.
So Tellez is okay. I think Tellez we were a bit thin on players. I think Tellez is definitely a useful addition.
Yeah,
Van der Beek looks like a good player.
Yeah, I mean the talk about him is that he's a replacement for Pogba, isn't it?
I think that's the kind of thing that because of what's happened around the world, Pogba was possibly going to be sold, but because of football stopping for a while, that may have put the hold on it, because it's affected certain Spanish teams that may be interested, maybe certain Italian teams that may be interested. Their finances may have been slightly hit.
Slightly hit.
But we're talking about maybe a year ago, thinking who can we play in midfield, because we didn't have Bruno, Pogba was injured, and so we're kind of putting together a midfield, hoping that Fred, who was, let's be fair, adjusting to the league at that time, would play along with Tomine, and somehow we'd compete. And I think it was like really difficult for us to actually get much going in the league before that.
Fair enough. Well, we've spoken a lot about football. Why don't we talk about kind of what we do now, YouTube? Got a couple of questions for you, Rick, about YouTube, your YouTube career.
Shortish career, but yeah.
I don't know if anyone actually really asked you about your YouTube career before.
No one said anything. No, not really.
All right. Well, this is the first time for you. What event or person would you say, if there is one, obviously, inspired you to get into YouTube?
Yeah, difficult question.
We always ask difficult questions here.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking that if there's like any one key event, I think it's like I'm a massive fan of sport, and I'll say that when there was a lockdown, the harder it was, hard having like a lockdown. Obviously, it affects people in different ways. Some people obviously still go to work but having no sport is something that I watch quite a lot of. So having no football, no basketball, no other American sports I like watching, and so just you end up like watching more stuff on the internet, and you see like some fan channels and things. I can't remember what I watched or whether I like the idea of uploading stuff anyway, because I quite like making videos. So I was kind of like teaching myself video editing at the same sort of time, and doing so I think because I couldn't see any family, we did like little updates of kind of what we were doing, like vlog sort of gardening stuff, because it was the summer. So with my daughters, like do stuff in the garden and film that. And then obviously I thought I can just do my stuff on my own, and what do I like talking about? And it's like sports. So I thought I'll just do this, and so I called my channel Rich Sports because I couldn't really think of a name.
Well, don't worry, we literally called the Blue Podcast because I'm a Chelsea fan. He's a City fan. Put the colours together, blue. So just don't worry. It's
and you just think that, yeah. So I think I just did like a little video saying basically I'll just upload some football stuff and I didn't really have much idea what I was going to do, and then just did little match previews on my own, because I kind of wanted to do more interactive type things like the podcast you're doing, and like live streams I do previewing games, talking about the Premier League, because for me that's kind of like more interesting, because I kind of miss like the banter on the school bus where you talk to like the Tottenham fan and you talk to like the other fans of different clubs, and for me that's quite fun. Like it's great talking to Manchester United fans, but invariably they keep talking about the same things, and just think I don't want to talk about replacing the manager again, and you think. So for me, it's about getting interaction with people again, and I think that the live stuff works well. And people I know that like do actually enjoy watching it, which is nice to hear. And hopefully put out something that is interesting, because ultimately it's stuff I enjoy talking about. So I'll put out basketball things. I don't think it's so popular because most of my followers are probably British based. But yeah, so I like talking about other teams, but whether that's interesting to Manchester United fans, I don't know. I think it is to some.
To some, maybe. But maybe it might also help grow your audience, which is kind of what we've been trying to do here. But so if to summarize what you just said, it's kind of like I guess lockdown was your event that
I think yeah, that's true. And I think it's fair to say I didn't really plan what I was going to do initially. I just started doing small videos, and based on, obviously I still have to go to work and have like other family and things, so trying to do little videos and edit them just takes too long, and it's actually more fun to get other people involved.
I completely understand. It's why we do podcasts, because I literally can press record, press end record, and then take my hands away from the keyboard. It's brilliant.
You've got a thing that it becomes fun and enjoyable, and it becomes like kind of like a routine you like doing, and it's like quite fun to get people involved. So I'm doing it because if I wasn't doing it, I'd be talking about sport anyway, and it saves people in my house not having to listen to it. Like my daughters don't have interest in football. Apart from the Leeds game, they became interested in the Leeds game because it was 2-0 after 3 minutes, and then they became a bit interested.
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you mean.
Well, I'll say the question to you guys, because I would say, have you been doing it roughly the same sort of time, like over the...
Yeah, so we started on June 11th was our first video. I don't know how I'd know that. But yeah, we started in June. I've had channels before. Still have one out called Macca's. But yeah, we've only been doing this since June. It's about the same time as you.
Yeah, I think it's about the same time.
Yeah, this is like, I mean, this is the first thing that I've done. And I know Tom through a friend from school who's a friend of Tom's from uni. He's friends with Tom from uni. So, yeah, that's how it kind of started.
We've actually only met once in person.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Because I think that most of the people on my channel, I don't know if people think that we know each other, because obviously I've just asked a lot of people, say, do you want to come and talk about sport? And some of them say yes, and then eventually some of them come on, and a lot of them are US based, or
Yeah.
I've had like someone from Australia. It's kind of like you have to kind of work the time zones a bit, because it's a bit like I say, okay, it's 10 o'clock here. What time is it where you are? And for some people, it'll be like, oh, it's like 7 in the morning. I think, okay, is that okay? Or some people are saying, well, it's like, no, that's too late or something. But no, so I think it's like becomes enjoyable. That's why you like doing it, which I guess is like.
Oh yeah, it's exactly why we've done it now, and how we continued as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I think it like it takes a lot of effort. I'm like pretty, say I'm fine with most technology, but things like where you think, okay, try and make certain things like thumbnails and pictures and that sort of thing to go with it. In terms of like learning how to use YouTube, it took a little while. So I think it's taken, hopefully it's getting better. Hopefully the quality is improving, but it's like quite a learning process, which I think, because I quite like learning things anyway, that because I had a lot of free time with lockdown, and because also the thing I do in my free time normally is watch sport wasn't available, I had quite a lot of extra time. So I thought I may as well learn something. So I taught myself video editing as like something to learn, and YouTube kind of grew out of that.
I think it might be a generational, well, relatively generational thing, but obviously I think I've grown up with having done YouTube since I was about not done YouTube, but like been in and around doing YouTube stuff since I was about 14. And this is the first time the channel's done very well compared to before. So like I had an old, my last channel has 105 subs, but that took me 2 years to get to 50 subs.
Okay. I would say that genuinely, when I started doing it, I had no idea there was that many people doing it, because I went on, I started uploading videos, and because I've used Twitter for like a long time, but I just created a separate Twitter account because I didn't want to dilute. Basically, I keep other things like family and things separate, because otherwise they just get drowned out by loads of people talking about sport and posting pictures of football players. But when I did that, I just realized that other people would start messaging you and say, oh, can you check out my channel? Or do you want to join this podcast? Or do you want? I was like, okay. So I joined a couple of people's live podcasts with like 4 or 5 other Manchester United fans. And I was like, okay, this is like quite fun. And it's kind of something you don't really consider doing it. And then based on that, you think, okay, maybe I should like look into doing this myself. And instead of doing a small video where you basically just post a video and then hope somebody watches it. Whereas if you actually can do something like this, that I can instantly ask your opinion, instead of writing, say what you think of this, and then maybe waiting days until someone actually just says one line and go, okay, you can just talk straight away, and it's a lot more fun.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, is this your first channel? I would gather it is.
I would say I did something earlier on that was not really aimed at trying to do anything apart from just because I was filming things, say like to show to put on Facebook for my friend my sort of family to see, in terms of like because my children couldn't see my parents or my cousins, or because our family is quite spread out, but we're quite friendly in terms of like we get on well. So because we couldn't meet up over the summer like I'd want to, or go home at Easter like I wanted to, go and visit them like regularly. I'd go and visit family, and quite often my cousins who live near London and other cousins that live near Cornwall, everyone would kind of get together a lot more frequently. So I put things on a YouTube channel then that was just basically our family stuff, but that's not really aimed at trying to get people to watch it too much, because it's just basically me practicing how to edit videos of like stuff in the garden and just sort of playing about with the technology and making it fun. And just it was quite fun to do because we had a lot of free time then and not really doing much else. Then this is kind of like something that obviously I'm more interested in, because it's something that I do for longer, because obviously I'm not going to stop being interested in sport anytime soon. But I think that doing the first one basically helped me, at least I knew what I was doing a bit more.
Fair enough. Well, we've kind of spoken about you doing videos, and kind of on this topic of what is your favorite type of video to record or do now, would you say?
I would say recently my favorite type of video is probably ones where I get a lot of different fans on from different clubs, where we kind of have a bit more banter. Like I kind of have a couple of Liverpool fan channels. There's definitely one fan channel that would write a few comments in the post. Like, I'm kind of wondering how Americans take this, because I don't know if it's quite what I would say is, we're talking about teams we don't like, and it's quite often you develop that dislike, should we say, when you're a child. It's kind of like with your school friends in primary school or in high school and stuff like that. So I'm wondering that for me, there's American sports I like, but I don't really dislike teams that are probably their rivals, because for me, I don't live in that area. I don't live in LA, or I don't live in New York, so I don't hate the team that lives nearby, because for me, it's not the same thing. So
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So would you say that your favorite thing about doing YouTube is just that interaction?
I think so. It's like when, like, obviously you support Manchester City, and for me, it's quite interesting. Something that I quite liked when I was in school. I had a friend that supported Blackburn, and obviously Blackburn, nothing now, but when they had Alan Shearer and they won the league in '95, obviously they're a great team. And I had like a family member that supported Newcastle, and it's kind of, you have that rivalry. So they can, obviously I can say what I like about a City, and it might be different from what you like, because you watch it in a different way. And it's quite interesting to know what other fans think of your players, because obviously I think what players we've got that are great. So for me, the multi-team supporting fan sort of podcasts are great. I don't quite like, I'm not quite enjoy doing the videos on my own quite so much anymore, because it's kind of, I quite like sometimes discussing a match that's just happened, because you kind of just think it's quite fresh in your mind. So, but maybe the match previews, because it's a bit unpredictable, and it's doing those solo. I haven't really done those much recently, because I think it's much more interesting to get like a general view of what people think. Like in terms of asking Ben, what do you think about the Manchester United Manchester City game? Because he was quite negative, which I was surprised, because I thought Manchester City must be thinking they're going to roll everybody after the way they've been playing. But it's interesting to know that.
Yeah. So no, yeah, I think that's kind of why this channel's kind of kept on going in such a regular basis, because we kind of started off with it just intending to be me, Ben, and then our mate Kieran, and then it turned into just me and Ben.
Yeah.
And then kind of by accident we started having guests. Like we had my dad on at first, but I think we only thought about doing that because we had one of my other mates does F1 who's called John. I said to him, well, do you want to come on just as a kind of, it wasn't really like intending to kind of go down this have guests on every week route, and then it has. But it's kind of, I don't know if you agree, Ben, it's quite enjoyable getting different people's opinions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, the like you say, it started off with just without any guests, and then I think having your friend John on kind of really sort of sparks it, because like other F1 YouTube channels sort of interacted, and then you were like, oh, we could get them on, and then it was like, oh, but then we could get football people on, and then you're like, oh, we can get comic book people and rugby people. So it's yeah, it is good.
It's opened up a lot more doors for us, at least.
I think it's because when I started, because there's just me, that I thought I want someone to talk to. So I kind of just asked people. I thought the most obvious people to ask were Manchester United fans, because they'd be interested in talking about Manchester United. And but yes, but if you've seen many of my streams, you'll see that there's kind of the same sort of people over it. And I think after
Jamie is there every week in, week out, every video I see Jamie there. Shout out to Jamie if you're watching this video.
Like a massive shout out to some of the people that join which is great, because you kind of have this like sort of rapport now with some of the people watching, and they put some comments that are like quite funny, and you kind of know what to expect from. But I say also with guests as well, that I've got a couple of guests that join regularly from the US, and depending on when the time zone works on certain days for them, and you get quite a nice interaction with those, because the first time you talk to somebody on, you don't know how you're going to actually bounce off each other, whether it's going to come across as like awkward or whether it's actually going to be quite fun. And so I've ended up going through, I probably had about, I don't know, 15 to 20 guests on, and ultimately there's probably about 5 or 6 that have probably been on way more than the others because they enjoy it, they want to come back on again, and it works really well. The whole idea is that it has to be fun and it has to be like enjoyable, and most people want to come on because most people say they want to come on, and when they do come on, you go, do you want to come on again? And they're like, I don't know. It's kind of difficult, isn't it? Because it can go on quite long. I think I always actually I say, Tom, you did mention earlier that we came on to one with like about 4 or 5 Manchester United fans.
Oh yeah,
I told them this in the stream.
I was really planning on like doing something short, and I say that also that you got to say things that you don't take into account is that if you got like 4 or 5 other people involved, then there's only so much you can control in terms of like.
Oh yeah, no, I completely understand. I actually quite enjoyed just sitting there listening to them all ranting onto each other.
What was really interesting was that the conversation was too interesting to stop watching, and I just kind of sat there for like about 15 minutes just listening to 2 people, which they had some quite interesting points of view, and I was like, this is like quite.
it was like tennis. They were just like hitting saying one thing, then hitting it straight back, and it was very entertaining.
Even like I think Ben was talking about it yesterday. That Jamie was saying that he really enjoyed it, and it was like entertaining. But I was like thinking, I think I spoke to you, and I think I spoke to other people, and I just say, I'll try and do like quite a short stream of like.
Yeah, I was told an hour before the stream. Like, it would be about an hour.
Like, oh.
Yeah, I messaged.
I think that's a good thing that.
Go on.
I say that's a good sign though that it ends up being long, but hopefully. I do hope that guests don't feel like I've tricked them into coming on and then just talking.
No, definitely not.
There is no plan.
Speaking of, I guess, we've kind of just spoken about your history of your YouTube career, but would there be anything that you want to change, anything you want to do differently maybe since you've started?
I think that one of the difficulties is that based on like the house size I've got, which is, and the broadband quality of certain places in the UK, I kind of have to do things in a way, like say downstairs connected, that I can't really, if I had more space, I suppose I could do something a bit more, sort of like perfect things a bit more in terms of like have a nicer setup in terms of how I can present videos or stream at more, maybe more accessible times for people, or more live stuff that's in relation to games that I can't do now because I'm kind of watching it and there's children walking around. And I tried doing something once in midday and my daughter's just like, I don't want to use the word ruin, but they just kind of get involved in a way which you don't want at certain times. So I say maybe make it more polished in terms of that, because obviously after you do it for a bit, you kind of think of what things you'd like to tweak, what things you'd like to do differently. I'd like to maybe be able to have a sort of standard time, have this time on this day, this time, and have a kind of more, not regimented, but kind of more standard schedule. But at the moment, it's not possible.
Yeah, I think that's what we meet. We have every Thursday 4 p.m. and then, but we can. I think kind of the difference between what you and we do is yours is a stream, so it's just a little bit trickier to stay to a schedule because you have to actually record it every time in the week.
So I kind of like have to rely on, like, no disrespect to Ben, but I have to rely on everyone's internet connection to be happy at certain times. And
yeah, whereas we've had times where like we went to record at say a set time, and then it ends up that through certain situations we've actually had to record an hour and a half later. Or I think one time we were recording and Ben's internet went down for about half an hour, so we just paused the recording, came back to it half an hour later, and it was fine.
It's just technical issues that you don't think of, and there's nothing you can do about it. That someone called Tom that joins my stream quite a lot, that has a lot of information on transfers, sometimes he just can't connect. And so I don't want to like overpromise, when I put like a post out on Twitter and say I've got this guy joining, and then the stream starts and someone will say, where's this person? Go, he can't connect. he's trying, but he can't connect. So it's kind of like it's nice to make it more professional, but I think it's just you just got to accept it's real life. And I think that makes it. Hopefully, it makes it fun for people. I'm not trying to.
It's more about the content, isn't it, Rick?
Yeah, it's about. I think for me, it's about not. I don't want to push any sort of agenda either. I want to just generally get someone's opinion.
Yeah.
That there's definitely a few people that I would say Twitter for me isn't really football fans. It's kind of like, here's my statement. Please click like and retweet because it's controversial or it's something that people think is like nonsense. Or I said the only thing I get involved in with Twitter, and I think Ben was kind of on the same page with me, was like the skulls. And when people pick a player that's had a few good games and say they're better than Skulls, I just go, hang on a minute, come on. Yeah, that's the only time I get involved and just go, come on guys, just check out this video if you haven't seen him play.
Yeah, so I guess that sort of, you're talking about tweaking things and like improving your setup is sort of, I guess, would that be your future goal for your channel?
I think future wise, it's kind of like the idea is like that the more, in terms of like growing it, is to make it like when you get more people watching, it becomes more fun, more enjoyable. You get more views, and particularly if you can get fans from different teams watching, and that makes it really good as well. Because sometimes, I was saying before, sometimes there's a bit of banter going on in the chat between different teams, and I'm like trying to focus on talking to guests, and I just see something that's just really funny, and I just like can't help but laugh at it and just think, okay, then think, what was I talking about? But I think it's like that idea that, isn't it, that I think like you were saying that you opened up to like say F1 fans, different teams. I did actually see some of your comic book podcasts, although I wouldn't say I know a lot about comic books. I was just interested to see that what it was about. But it's that sort of thing, isn't it? I think it just evolves over time. That you don't really have I didn't have a set plan. I didn't say, oh, I want to do this, 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 and this. It kind of like, I did a few things. I thought, okay, that's quite fun. Maybe I'll do that a bit more. And think, okay, this is less fun because it's just like 3 hours of editing to try and do like a 5-minute video. It feels like a bit of waste where I could maybe spend half an hour talking to somebody for half an hour. And for me, it's also because I like basketball, it's enabled me to talk to a lot of people about basketball, maybe in this country or maybe in the US, that basketball fans aren't quite as easy to find as football fans. So it's kind of been like quite a social thing as well. I would say, did you have a plan when you started your channel? Was there any like aim, or was it kind of like evolved over time?
I don't think we really did have a plan, did we?
Well, it was your brainchild, wasn't it? So
yeah, it was my brainchild, but I think it was more just I've wanted to do a podcast for a long time. Kind of, I'd say since I went to uni 3 Septembers ago now. I've always wanted to do a podcast, and it was more just trying to find the right person. I've never liked really doing YouTube videos alone. I often like having if I was doing it with me in front of the camera, I'd often have someone behind the camera, stuff like that. So
yeah, it's weird, isn't it? To start with,
it's finding the right person, I think, and I just got lucky with Ben, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's good though, isn't it? And it's quite nice that you support different teams. You have that different angle. For me, I suppose there's probably like 3 or 4 people that I have as regular guests that I really like having them, because it's kind of it's like a good personality mix in terms of you want to do the same sort of things, talk about similar things, not extreme views, no clickbait, that sort of thing wasn't interesting. But I was thinking that when I was a lot younger, doing say things with like having like a radio show seemed like a cool idea, but obviously this is kind of a modern version of that where you can stream live, but just being able to have put out some interactive content that's quite fun, and obviously about sport is something that I'm interested in. Yeah, I can see like I said, if you think about other things as well that you add to your sport channel, like you talk about comics, you talk about other different sports as well.
Well, it's just because it's just something. So, like for example, with the F1, it's something that Ben is interested in. So that's kind of like Ben's thing so far. And then I'm kind of I played rugby my entire life till 18, so that's my thing. And then also comics, I'm a bit of a nerd sometimes. So like which we tried to kind of incorporate some of our personality interests into it to kind of like just, I guess, make the channel. It was never our intention. Like as we said, we didn't really have a plan.
It was definitely right at the start. You definitely pushed it. But like you say, it kind of just developed from there. Really, there was no.
So I think that's why I called my channel Rich Sports, was because I was like, I don't want to just become a Manchester United channel, because it's not what I just want to talk about, because I'm a massive fan of basketball and have been for ages, and I see so many parallels in sport in terms of how so tactically, or how players perform, or just there's a lot of, like, you talk about rugby, and I'm trying to think, who was your manager when you won the World Cup? Was that Ed Woodward?
Okay, you're really throwing me back there. I was 3 years old.
Okay, I think it was Woodward, and I think Martin Johnson, to throw a name you probably know more recently.
Yeah.
And Martin Johnson is a massive fan of American football, and I know that when I've watched Super Bowls and games, that he's been there, and there's been representatives of the coaching staff of England rugby and other sports as well, and Gareth Southgate, England manager. Yeah. They've all been there talking to head coaches, because American football is basically a game of set pieces, and you're talking about things you can plan beforehand. The game, obviously, in football, you can also do that as well. There's so much stuff that they take from different sports, and the elite managers are looking at American sports. So for me, that's interesting, because that's something I see. And when I see a basketball game, and when they had one in Paris last year, you see so many football players that are there watching.
Yeah. They do say that the reason that English football is so sort of full on and fast is because the second sport in England is rugby, and the reason that Spanish football is so technical is because the second sport in Spain is basketball, which is more technical. So they have influences on football with them being second sports.
The basketball is so popular in Europe that I've worked with people from, say, France, Italy, that certainly in Italy, it's massive. And I think Spain as well, it's quite big. You just don't really think of, do you? You kind of think that most American sports, but I've definitely had colleagues from Japan as well, and their second sport is pretty much baseball. They absolutely love baseball, which I was like, okay, you kind of don't really think that they're...
No, yeah, baseball's big in Japan, I've seen, yeah.
It's like enormous. And like, obviously football's for them, they absolutely love football. But yeah, so for me, that's why I wanted to call my channel Rich Sports, because I didn't know 100% what I wanted to talk about. I knew it was sport and it was going to involve football, but it's kind of like nice to do different things.
Yeah, I think with our name, the Blue Podcast, it was kind of, it doesn't really kind of categorize us into one topic. Like,
it doesn't limit you, does it?
Yeah. So like, obviously it is because I support Chelsea, Ben supports City. That's just kind of how we got the name, but never really categorized us, and obviously hasn't done, considering we've now done 4 F1 podcasts, 2 comic book and 1 rugby one. So yeah, it's good. But it's just like this. So this is we've been doing this 8 months in 4 days, and it's going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Oh, mad! It'll actually be our 8-month anniversary of videos when we upload our new show with
cool.
2 more people.
Cool.
So yeah, we are. It's kind of nice to, like you say, it's nice to have regular people. We're now expanding to make. So it'll still be me and Ben, probably just us 2 on Thursdays. So anyone who's watching, don't be worried about that. But it's just going to be kind of an extra thing to kind of have more views to talk about football.
Yeah,
they support 2 more clubs,
Liverpool and Arsenal.
Yeah, which I guess gives it away. If anyone watches
that thing.
It's going to be I don't want to spoil the name yet.
Okay.
The name?
I mean, I don't think people aren't going to be here like,
No, the purple show will air first time.
A mix of blue and red is the idea.
Yes.
So do you plan to do different things in the future? Like you talk about comic books a bit, or do you think you'll?
No, we're thinking of sticking to football guests on Thursdays, like you are our guest this week, and then we're going to have the Purple Show on Sundays, and then I guess we're going to have the odd.
So the Purple Show will be on Sundays if we don't have a guest for like
comic books, F1,
books,
just any other thing basically.
Yeah.
But we probably also won't have those. Like we never really have had those that regularly. So they will just be kind of sprinkled in between the Purple Show podcast, basically.
Yeah.
So you guys have got that to look forward to. Before we start wrapping things,
I was trying to do more basketball content. I think it's tough because it's harder to get. Basically, a lot of people. I did a series of them last year because it was a bit easier because I think basketball started at a different time, or it was on a different time from football because the football season finished and there's like some basketball. But it also was the playoffs, so it's a bit more exciting. But I ended up, it was difficult reaching out to Americans because you say, okay, what time is it where you are? Or what time is it here? And then, but I think it's like good to do different things.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything else you want to mention, Ben, before we start wrapping this up?
Just want to say, rest in peace, Colin Bell.
Oh yeah.
My dad's favorite player, actually. Or one of my dad's favorite players.
I think he mentioned them in the podcast, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Mentioned Colin Bell, and alongside sort of David Silva, he likes the midfield maestros. So yeah, it's one of the players.
Certainly send our respects and rest in peace. Probably should have mentioned that earlier in the podcast. I feel bad.
I think it's my dad's favorite player of all time. So,
well, football has lost another great recently. Well, thank you, Rick, for coming on. I guess it's kind of a sad point to leave on, unfortunately.
It's good to come on to different channels and talk, and thanks for having me on.
And I hope you enjoyed it. I guess I'll see you shortly, Ben, for the first Purple Show, which we have teased. And if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like. If you're new around here, do subscribe. We've actually kind of been losing subscribers lately, but that doesn't matter. Don't know why that is. I do actually, but anyway, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys on Sunday for the first Purple Show. Goodbye.